Welcome to the Explainer. So, you've got a big idea, right? A spark of passion. Today, we're going to talk about how to turn that spark into something real, a viable business that people will actually pay for.
All right, let's get right into it. This is a really fundamental shift in thinking. Look, a ton of great ideas start with passion, right? I love cooking. Nothing wrong with that. But the businesses that really take off, they start by solving a real, nagging problem. Something like, you know what? My neighborhood has 0 healthy, quick food options. See the difference? One's a hobby. The other, well, that's an opportunity.
And that's really the core of what we're talking about today. It's all about shifting your focus away from what you love to do and onto a problem that other people desperately need solved. Honestly, this is probably the most critical first step you can take on this whole founder journey.
Okay, so you've found a problem. Great. But now what? How do you even begin to capture this entire sprawling business idea on just one page? It can feel kind of chaotic, right? Like a million different pieces floating around. But don't worry, there's a tool for this. Think of it like an essential map for founders that just cuts through the noise and brings some serious clarity right from the get-go.
And that map, that amazing tool we're talking about, it's a really powerful framework called the Lean Canvas.
Yeah, forget about those, dusty 50-page business plans that are basically useless the second you hit print. The Lean Canvas is totally different. It's dynamic, it's alive, and it forces you to be brutally honest with yourself and focus on the just nine, most critical parts of your business idea. And the best part, it all fits on a single page.
Okay, so these 9 blocks, think of them as the DNA of your business. They force you to answer the hardest questions right at the beginning. You've got stuff about your market, like who are your customer segments exactly? And what's the core problem they're facing? Then it makes you think about your product. What's your solution? And super important, what's your unique value proposition? Like what makes you the only real choice? And then, of course, the viability part. How do you reach people through channels? What are your revenue streams looking like versus your cost structure? And finally, what's your unfair advantage? I'm telling you, getting all of this down on one page, it is an absolute game changer.
Okay, let's see this thing in action, because that's where it really clicks. Take this idea for a medicine delivery app. The problem isn't just, delivery. That's way too broad. It's specific. It's seniors struggle to get to the pharmacy. See? And the customers, they're not everyone. Nope. They're seniors and chronic patients. That kind of laser focus is exactly what separates a vague idea from a real business. So you've got your map, your lean canvas. It looks amazing. But this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Building the whole thing, the full product, could take months, maybe years, and a ton of money. So how do you test the waters without building this giant, expensive ship? How do you know you're even sailing in the right direction? Well, that question leads us to one of the most powerful ideas in the entire startup world. Right. We are not building a cruise liner right out of the gate. No way. We're just going to build a raft, something simple to get us started. And that raft is called the minimum viable product, or as you'll hear all the time, the MVP. And here's the best way to think about it. If you want to test if people want a new way to get from A to B, you don't have to build a whole car. That's crazy. Maybe you just build a skateboard first. The MVP, that's your skateboard. It's the absolute simplest version of your product that lets you learn if you're right about your core idea, all with minimal time and money. And this is not just about winging it. There's a real process here, almost like a scientific method. You're not just throwing something against the wall to see what sticks. No, it's a structured experiment. You define your core hypothesis, what you believe to be true. You design a simple MVP to test it. You set a clear metric for success. Then you test it with real people, analyze what happened, and decide. Do we keep going? Do we pivot? Or do we stop? The whole point is learning, not just building for the sake of building. And your first test can be ridiculously simple. I mean it. Look at this example, a platform for digital skills. Instead of spending 6 months building the entire thing, what's the MVP? It's just a landing page, a simple website that explains the service and has a big pre-register now button. The real question you're asking isn't, does our fancy video player work? It's, does anyone on earth even want this? And a simple web page answers that question way faster and cheaper than months of coding. And here is the absolute key to making this a real test. You have to set a clear, measurable target before you launch. For this example, it's 500 pre-registrations in 1 week. It's not just, let's see how it goes. It's a number. If we hit 500 signups, we know we're onto something. This takes all the emotion and guesswork out of it. The data tells you if your idea has legs. All right, so you've got your map, the lean canvas. You've got your raft, the MVP. But you're in uncharted waters here. You need a compass to point you in the right direction. And that compass always is your customer.
Listen, this next part is so important. When you go out and talk to potential customers, your goal is not to get them to say, "Oh, I love your idea." That's useless. The goal isn't validation, it's discovery. You have to think of yourself as an explorer. You're not looking for compliments, you're looking for deep insights into their world, their problems, their frustrations.
And look at the kinds of questions you should be asking. They're totally open-ended. They're designed to get people telling stories, not just giving you a yes or no. When you ask something like, "So how do you deal with this problem today?" That's when you uncover the good stuff, the messy workarounds they've created, how much they're already spending, their real frustrations. That right there is where the gold is hidden.
Okay, so now you have the tools, right? You have the map, you have the raft, you have the compass. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the danger zones, the common mistakes that sink so many otherwise promising ideas.
Here they are, the top 3 mistakes. Number 1, building the whole product before you even really understand the problem. Number 2, just relying on your own assumptions without actually testing them. And number 3, totally ignoring what's already out there in the market. I mean, these are like the classic traps that sink startups before they even get a chance to float. But the good news is, with the tools we've talked about, the lean canvas, the MVP, and real customer discovery, you now know exactly how to navigate around them.
So you've got the map, the raft, and the compass. The only question left is, what problem are you gonna solve first? Because in the end, that's really what it all boils down to. The journey of a successful founder, it doesn't start with a perfect, shiny solution. It starts with a deep, almost obsessive understanding of a problem that is truly worth solving. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.